Hi everyone, my name is Amy and this is Matt Francis, a Digital Solutions Manager here at Clevertar.
That's right.
Thank you for joining us today for Clevertar's Fireside Chat series where they interview some of their internal experts here at Clevertar who have loads of expertise to share when it comes to customer experience, customer communication, building chatbots that actually work. They are some of the topics we're going to be talking about today. I want to acknowledge that we are coming to you today from Ghana country. Although this is a digital event, we think it's important to acknowledge that we are on that land, and the Ghana people have been having conversations like this for many, many years, and we respect the elders past, present and emerging. We want this to be a two-way conversation today. This is not a one-way thing where Matt and I are going to have a chat. This is a two-way conversation. So we want you to jump into the Q&A and let us know a couple of things. Where you're coming from today, be it your workplace or where you are in this world at this crazy time, and perhaps what industry you're in as well, let us know. And that way we can frame the conversation to be really relevant to your industry. Jump into the Q&A, into the chat, and let us know. We look forward to welcoming some of you, and then we'll get stuck in. Anyone willing to say hello?
That's always the big one, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Might have a quiet group. Hi from Sydney. Welcome, James. Thank you for joining us. We are thinking of you in Sydney.
Yeah, stay safe, stay sane, more importantly.
Yeah, do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. Anyone else willing to let us know what industry they're coming from today, where you're based, how you're going? Jump in the chat, and likewise throughout this conversation today, jump into the chat and let us know if you've got any questions. We're happy to answer them as we go. Right, let's get stuck in then. Darren's here. He's from Tasmania, and he works in health insurance. Thank you for letting us
Hey, Darren.
know that, and welcome, Darren. And we think this is probably going to be pretty relevant to you, so hopefully we can share a few tips today. Now, Matt, we have all experienced chatbots, right? And I think it's probably pretty fair to say we've probably all experienced dumb chatbots online. You kind of jump on a website and there's a chatbot and you think, great, and you put in your question and you don't get an answer.
Yep.
What you guys are doing here at Clevertar is different. Can you tell us why?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think the dumb chatbot theme is something that we regularly get asked about, and more than just being asked about it, it's something that I've experienced both pre-Clevertar and during Clevertar, and in all walks of life. And I think for me, the big thing about avoiding a situation where you have a dumb chatbot is about setting expectations with your users. Mm-hmm. So rather than just having a chatbot that launches up and says, "How can I help you?" You are leaving the floor open then for people to ask anything and everything. And whilst you can't completely avoid that in some situations, you can certainly nuance the conversation in a way that says, I'm here to Chatbot X. How can I help you on that topic? Mm-hmm. And really manage the expectations that the chatbot is there as a specialist in that particular area. Mm-hmm. And then the other key thing outside of setting expectations is continuing to improve the chatbot's content. So you never know how a program is going to, or a chatbot knowledge base is going to perform until it gets in the real world. You can do a lot of testing and preparing, and that's really important, but there's no data like real world data. And once it's out in the world with real people, it's about having constant monitoring of that data, continuing to train the chatbot to answer questions more effectively, improve its knowledge base, which is really important as well, because often what we do is we look at the types of questions that are being asked, feed that back to our customers and work with them on continuing to expand the knowledge base so that it can deal with them better in the future. Much like training a real person. You have a new person join your call team or any role in a business, and over time they become more competent at providing the right answer, and it's no different to training a chatbot. Mm-hmm.
So would you say that's kind of your point of difference, I guess? You're not just building something and it's once and it's done and it's set and then you guys leave. It's constant kind of improvements.
Yeah, that's right. I think one of our points of difference is really that we work really, really closely with our clients to make sure that we're providing a great solution for them that helps their customers, but also importantly helps their business as well. And it's not a set and forget system. There are instances where you can be less hands-off with the type of content that's being delivered, but when you're delivering rapidly changing information, we work with our clients to make sure that our chatbots are providing the information they need to deliver.
Speaking of rapidly changing information, obviously with COVID, you've had to work with a couple of clients who are having to provide pretty rapid communication. I think you're pretty well known for working with SA Health here in South Australia to deploy Zoe, a COVID-related chatbot. And the interesting thing is that you deployed her in about 6 days, which just blows my mind, to help SA Health respond to the inquiries they received. Tell us about Zoe.
Yeah, so Zoe was launched over 12 months ago now, really when the pandemic first kicked into gear here in Australia, and SA Health, like others, were grappling with a large number of inquiries from the community and different ways and exploring different channels that they could have that information delivered in. And Zoe was brought to life, as you say, really quite quickly, which is was a big credit to not only our team but also SA Health as well. They were really good to work with in the sense that we put something out into the market that was quite controlled in the first instance. So taking an agile approach, focusing on one particular area, which at that stage was around general guidelines and safety around social distancing and those types of things, and putting that information out quickly. So really quite a controlled program, and then rapidly expanded and changed and has done over the last 15, 16 months now, continued to iterate, sometimes multiple times a week as the situation changes.
As the premiers stand up to change the rules.
That's right. And we here in South Australia, obviously in the last 7 days we had lockdown. So that was an example of traffic going from here. We were sort of steady, going along at quite a nice steady state here in the state. And then all of a sudden, it went to great heights due to the fact that people had a lot of questions. So Zoe was there to help them and provide information that was relevant at that time as well.
Do you have any idea of the numbers Zoe's doing, like in the past month or past 6 months? How many questions is she answering?
Yeah, Zoe has in the last month, she's spoken with about 90,000 people. So quite a large number. We crunched the numbers the other day and worked out that she's spoken, because she's a talking character. For those who have seen Lozar's work before, we have virtual characters as one of our points of difference. And she's spoken for the equivalent of 52 working weeks, or 38-hour weeks, in the space of a month. So
she deserves a holiday.
She deserves a holiday, but she's working 24/7, so that's why she's not getting one. Not yet.
Not getting one. Oh my goodness. That is just so useful, because those conversations would have had to have been had by staff members. So those staff members aren't now unemployed, are they?
No, absolutely not. I mean, like any of our customers that we work with, it's a lot less about necessarily reducing headcount, although sometimes that can be a goal of an organisation. But for the existing call centre team, it's much more about making sure that they're being paid money to deliver a service and use their experience and knowledge with customers to solve high value problems. And they don't necessarily want to be, I think, or it's not in their best interest to be answering the same questions day in, day out, and hundreds of the same things. It's routine and it probably gets a bit boring.
Same nuts, wouldn't it?
So that's where a chatbot or any automated technology, but especially a chatbot can really help with that, because they can answer those day-to-day questions that are mundane.
Yeah, I probably think we could all agree on that. No one wants to ask the same questions 90,000 times.
That's right.
And Zoe can, leave it up to her.
Yeah.
So feel free, if you've got any comments, to jump into the Q&A and let us know any questions, and we'll handle them throughout the chat. And welcome to anyone who's joining us in a few minutes after we've started. It's great to have you here. So Zoe's not the only kind of high-profile client you've been working on, or the only high-profile chatbot. You're also working with the ABS as part of the census. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we have. It's been a great project to be a part of. It's all coming into fruition now as we've really moved into census mode. I'm sure a lot of people have either seen or heard the ads on TV and radio. They've really kicked out their marketing in the last couple of weeks, ready for the census night on August 10th. But we've been working on that project for a little over a year now with the Australian Bureau of Statistics, and Claire, her name is. Claire, yes. Another one to our stable. She's ready to answer a range of questions about the census. So that is obviously a huge event for Australia every period of years, and she's ready to help the millions of households that need assistance on census night.
Yeah, perfect. Wow, that's huge. Congratulations. So, hypothetically speaking, if I was a business, perhaps I'm not the ABS or SA Health, at what point should I be, I guess, or what considerations should I make as a business when it comes to deploying something like what Clevertar does, or looking at any chatbot provider? What should I be thinking about?
Yeah, great question. I think, well, the first thing that we would ask, someone that might come to us and interested in chatbots is, firstly, do you have the same types of questions being asked of your business all the time?
Yeah.
Is that something that's taking place? Secondly, is 24/7 important? I think that's a big one. If you can only handle your business hours and that's the only time that you would ask some inquiries, then possibly not. That's not the case for most businesses, of course. People are online doing things at all times today. So is 24/7 important? And I think the big one is digital important? Is a digital channel, is your website something that gets a lot of traffic? Is it an important part of your business to have people going through a digital channel to receive information? If it's a tick to all those things, and the next one I'd say is, I guess, can you afford to put people into a call center or onto your support team to answer inquiries? If you can, and you've got the budget to have people to do that, then that's obviously a viable option as well. But for a lot of organisations, it's about obviously managing costs and delivering efficient services. So a chatbot can then be used in that case to answer, as we said, those routine inquiries and take the load off, I suppose.
I can think of so many colleagues throughout my career who were just answering the phones. Like I can just imagine what would have happened, kind of, or the change for their careers, I guess, if they had a chatbot answering all those repetitive questions about what time do you open, how do I do this, the deeper, more interesting work they may have been able to do.
Yeah, that's right.
Interesting. So once you've got a chatbot on your website, how do you know if it's valuable? How do you know that I'm not just jumping on there and then going, oh, I'm not using that, and then going to the competitor?
Yeah, well, we have an insights portal where we can monitor the data, and I think that's super important because, as I mentioned earlier, it's about checking what people are actually asking about. So one of the things that we do is we promote quick wins, delivering a knowledge base in a chatbot that in the first instance is potentially a little bit smaller than the grander vision, so that we don't try and buy something that's bigger than Ben-Hur and then learn that people have only used 10% of that knowledge base because the rest of it isn't quite as valuable or how you thought it might get interacted with. So having a smaller bit of content and really monitoring that data and making sure that it's hitting the right spots, that people are getting their questions answered. That's something that we, as I mentioned, we work quite closely with our clients on. We also ask them within the chat itself, have I been able to help you today? Can you provide me any feedback? I think feedback and learning is super important to make sure that if you don't have the voice of the customer coming through, then you're never going to be able to improve that and continue to make sure that the bot itself is improving. So that's a super important part of the process.
Okay, so start small and then just get some feedback from the customers and improve.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be good advice to anyone looking to deploy a chatbot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that doing it in a managed way, I think it's great to have a roadmap. We always work through that with our customers, looking at this can be stage one, and this is how we plan to roll out the knowledge base over the coming weeks and months. But being open to change if necessary, because like I said, there's no data like real world data, and making sure that you can be flexible and responsive to that, I think, is super important.
So if I was an organisation that was deploying, we've got a comment from Libby. What data do you have on reduction of low-based questions that continually get asked of an organisation where your products are being used. Is this the best use of a chatbot? Low-based questions.
Low-based questions. So I'm just by low-based, I'm assuming that you're referring to the routine questions that get asked over and over again. In terms of data, do I think you
data on the reduction of those lower-based questions. So I guess how many are you dealing with, or how many are the chatbots able to deal with?
Yeah, I mean, we could look at this in terms of the quantity of information provided by some of them. For example, with the census chatbot, that is a lot of routine questions about different types of things like, I've got a question about question 7 on the census. Here's all the FAQs about that. That's a program that's 2,000 dialogues in size, so that's a really big one.
Wow.
So that's a good example of that. That is certainly that's the best use of a chatbot. I think so. But I think one of the important things, I was going to mention this in an earlier answer, is making sure that the pathway through from the routine questions, if that can't be answered, is being able to connect you through to a support team member to help you then. So that avoids the idea of having this dumb chatbot because it hands off and says, sorry, can't help you. We want to make sure that the chatbot is part of the overall customer experience where it then hands over to somebody that can answer something that's a little bit more complex.
Yeah, perfect. So they're part of the puzzle.
Yeah.
They're not replacing the
That's
customer
right.
service team at all. Great question, Libby. Let us know if you've got any other questions. So after a business comes to Clevertar or a provider like a chatbot provider, or specifically Clevertar, how do you train the chatbot for the particular business so it's kind of not all about what you do for SA Health?
Yeah, so at the start, what we do is we sit down with a customer and with one of our clients, and we say, well, what is the chatbot's purpose? What is the objective that's going to be achieving? And we plan out, and part of something because this leads into Libby's question in a way. We look at one of the first things we say is what are the routine questions that are being asked around this topic, and we map out a knowledge base that aims to answer the majority of those. But then we train it, if it's got natural language understanding, I guess that's the artificial intelligence component of a chatbot. So, the chatbot's where you type in a question and then it thinks about it and provides you with an intelligent response. That is called natural language understanding. And that's the real training component of a chatbot. So we train it by having our team look through that data, look at where it's matching, and then continue to refine its path to make sure that it's matching to the right spot, because it works similar to a search engine in a lot of ways, but of a smaller subset of knowledge. And then if it can't answer that question, because it doesn't have the information in there, working with our clients to get that information. Yeah, that's right. And I think that's the important bit is, making sure that over the coming weeks after launch, you continue to add information to it so that it can provide that. And that is the training component of it.
So what onus is on the organisation? Like, how do they work with you? Like, are they emailing you different answers to FAQs, or how does it work?
Yeah, I mean, look, this depends on the chatbot instance and the organisation and the resources available. So we certainly have a lot of flexibility around that. For the example of SA Health, it's, as you said, the Premier speaks. There's some rules changed, and then they do a quick scan and provide us with some information, and we go away and then put it in and do it into the design in a way that it fits with the conversation is the way to deliver, because that's a specialised skill, and that's something that we do every day. So we take what is, I guess, raw content and then turn it into something that can be delivered by the chatbot. So that can happen in a number of ways. It doesn't have to be a heavily resourced person on our customer side, because SA Health is probably an example of information that changes really quickly. Whereas other clients, it might be after 6 weeks, we sit down and do a review and we look at the type of data, the type of information, and we make a change based on that. So that information can be provided to us through interviews, through forms on the website, a range of different things.
Just watching the Premier's press conference.
That's right. Yeah.
Quick update, chatbot. I've got a question from Graham. He says, how easy is it to incorporate a chatbot tool into an existing content contact center environment. For cases where a customer needs to be transferred to chat with an agent for a more complex issue. So how easy is it to incorporate into an existing contact center?
Yeah, that's a great question, Graham. So obviously we're talking there about integrations and handing off. So chatting with a Chatbot or any automated chatbot, and then passing that data over to a live agent to then deal with, as I say, the more complex things. We haven't worked with Genesis Pure Connect before, but Genesis are a big brand, so I'm sure we could. But we've certainly done it with a number of other providers where it happens in that way. You know, we have it so that Grace, we've got a telco client that have an agent called Grace. So she works on the front there, and she passes information over to their call center team who also operate a live chat environment. That is a separate system, so we pass the data over so that they get a summary of the information. They can see exactly what they're spoken to about Grace at that point, and then continue the conversation from there. So it is all about making sure that we can have that as a seamless transition over to a live chat environment where appropriate. So.
Let us know if that's answered your question there, Graham. Perfect. Thank you. Just making sure we're capturing all of the questions and comments here. There's one in the chat. Right, so this is so interesting, and to me, I'm just like, I don't even know how you do this. It's just beyond me. Is this really technical, or is it really just kind of working with the businesses, go, okay, what's the information you've got, and then hand it to you guys, and you guys do the rest?
Yeah, well, luckily it's we work with some talented people here.
Yeah.
There's certainly some technical components of it, but you know, we try to make the process as easy as possible. You know, you don't have to have somebody on your end, on the end of the client anyway, who is absolutely well versed in technical chatbot delivery. You know, that's how we try and work with our clients. And in fact, 99% of our clients don't have somebody in there who's worked with a chatbot or a technology like that before. It is much more about having an open relationship in the sense of sharing information. You know, make sure that pipeline of information through to us is a good one. We can continue to then build the conversations out, train the AI, and make sure that it's packaged up in a way that satisfies everyone. So
perfect. So if I was a organisation watching this, or perhaps a leader of a customer service team, or a leader of a contact centre, why should I, help us kind of get clear on what are the differences between, or the benefits of buying an off-the-shelf option versus working with someone like Lozar?
Yeah.
Why should I go down either path?
Yeah, cool. Well, there's plenty of off-the-shelf options for chatbots. Plenty that you can sign up to. Some of them that are relatively low cost, but to use them, it's a toolkit essentially, and to be able to implement them, you need resources from that organisation who are confident in creating a chatbot, and it's possible to make something that's simple. I think that's completely fine, and I think that's actually leads into some of the. I think earlier we did mention about having dumb chatbots, is because you can actually create something that's relatively straightforward, pretty quickly and easily, but without the constant training, the constant updating of information, and making sure that it is a really good experience. You do tend to go down the path of potentially making something that isn't going to deliver what you want to. So if you've got the resources available to build your own, that is an option. But this is obviously something that I guess at Cleverstar we do daily. So we've learned plenty along the way. We've no doubt made some mistakes along the way, and made some learnings about the best way to deliver a solution. So working with us is a great, obviously a great opportunity. I think if you've got capacity to do that and you want to explore it further.
What were some of those mistakes? I'm curious now. Some of the learnings, I guess.
I think one of the biggest learnings for me, and I've mentioned a couple of times, but really starting smaller the start. And I think being agile is just super important for lots of different projects and lots of different things, but particularly what we do, because we've probably made the mistake before of building something that's quite big, and then finding out that whilst it still works really well, there's a whole bunch of content that's sitting on the shelf essentially because it's not really getting touched as much. There might have been a lot of man hours put into actually developing that, and we could have got a similar result by having something that was a little bit more contained, a little bit tighter, and then after a certain amount of time exploring it, and then continue to build it out in the areas that it needed to be built out in response to consumer data, rather than building something that took 6 months that only a portion of that content gets used and gets used well. So that's just something we've learned over time, and I think our clients as well really appreciate that. Like, we're working with Lifeblood at the moment. Obviously, most people are familiar with Lifeblood and the work they do with blood donation. The similar thing. They're looking at the information they want to get out about people with the COVID vaccine and how that affects blood donations. We've got a bit of a COVID theme going in recent times, but that is quite a small program at the moment because it's about learning, about making sure that the next stage and the stage after that are in response to the way that their users want to consume information, what they want.
Yeah. So if you're looking at something like this, you don't really need all the bells and whistles to begin with. Just start small.
Yeah, get a quick win.
Yeah. Get some feedback, and then help get your customers to help kind of design your chatbot, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, get them to help improve it so it actually answers the questions.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Great. We have had a question from Philip. He put this in advance, so I wanted to include it to make sure he's watching the replay. What is the planning required to implement a chatbot strategy?
Okay. So to implement a chatbot strategy, I'd first off look at digital as a channel. Once again, is your digital strategy something that is part of your overall growth and continued customer service delivery? So do you want to drive more people to the website? If so, what are they coming there for?
Yeah.
So what are the main things they're coming there for? And then, like we said, what are the things that they are going to routinely ask? What might they pick up the phone for because they can't easily find it? Or it probably is there on the website, but people's attention spans are often short. So they often pick up the phone. So what can you, how can you what can you automate in that sense? And you start off with that section first. And then, as you said, continue to learn and grow as time goes on, as it grows with your strategy.
And you help them implement that strategy so they don't have to come up with the chatbot strategy. That's part of the work that you do.
That's right. That's part of the work we do in the planning process. For sure.
He also asks, are there any AI capabilities to automatically improve the CX journey? So that might be more than chatbots.
We're looking at it from a chatbot perspective. I mean, the AI capabilities typically rest with the natural language understanding component. So it is artificial intelligence because as much as we train the system and expose it to say, when someone asks this type of question, to respond in this way, the artificial intelligence component of it learns that if someone asks in a slightly different way or uses slightly different wording, that it gets smarter over time and continues to improve. So the more data we expose to it, the more that we train it, the smarter it gets over time. So I guess that hopefully answers part of that question in terms of it continues to improve the journey by using that.
This is probably similar to Libby's question, but he's also asked what percentage of inquiries can be solved by a chatbot without having to transfer to an agent?
Yeah, look, this depends entirely on, I guess, how big you want to design the program to start with. That sounds like how to use a piece of string, but if you want to spend a long period of time thinking of all the different ways that a user can, that someone might ask questions and then have it passed off before it goes to a live agent, then you can obviously answer a lot of questions. You can really go deep with that. But this is, once again, I'm saying the same thing a lot, but it's about making sure that you put something into the market and then continue to add to it as you learn how people answer.
Yeah, perfect. And after improving it over time, you'll be doing more and more a greater percentage of those inquiries can then be solved.
That's right.
But it takes that time and the constant improvement. We've got a comment from James. James is from the Clevertar team. He says, good question, Graham. Thinking about integrations is something that can also depend on the SLA. I don't know what that stands for.
Service level agreement.
Service level agreement, and specifically the part of the customer journey. Your chatbot team should understand the context, urgency, and flow when the handover could occur if they need instant voice or prefer a callback with more detail. So there's some more input on your question, Graham. Speaking of the team there, how do you find integrating with the team? Do you need to get your entire team on board with this concept?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly helps.
Yeah.
Typically, it's multifaceted in the sense that we might work with somebody that leads the contact center, for example, but it requires all facets of the business, really. You've got the IT department who manage its actual implementation and the monitoring of that. Marketing and promotion, that's obviously extremely important to make sure that you're pushing people towards the chatbot for those routine questions, making sure that if you want to make that a channel that people really engage in, getting them to there is obviously super important. So your branding and marketing of that is a big part of it. And then of course the contact center team themselves. I mean, they're the people at the front line, so they know the types of questions that are being asked day to day, and also the ones that they don't want to ask day to day. That's right. So really bringing in that character as part of the team, involves multiple parts of the business. And our most successful projects are those where it's been truly embraced by the team as a great channel.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Great. Don't forget to jump into the chat or the Q&A if you've got any questions for us. Just got our technical whiz here, James, telling us to check the chat. Darren has asked, what is your advice regarding managing customer expectations when a chatbot is 24/7, but escalated customer inquiries can only be answered during regular business hours? That's a really good question, Darren.
It is. And I think the way that we handle that is for the chatbot to be totally upfront and honest that they've inquired outside of business hours, and making sure they manage the expectations by saying, for example, not all of our clients utilize or have web chat handoff, so they hand over to a live chat operator to help with inquiries. Many of them simply we raise support tickets. So we'll take the customer's email address, contact details, feed them back like a summary of their conversation and say, this is what you've inquired about, this is what we'll get someone to get in touch with you about. And then if it's a case of letting them know when business hours are, and that they'll have somebody come back to them at that time, then we let them know that's what's happened and then confirm that that support ticket has been lodged. So minimize customer dissatisfaction by being helpful and honest that I couldn't help you as a chatbot, I couldn't help you, but I'm going to pass your information over to someone who will get in touch with you and can.
Yeah, great. Graham's also asked, can the chat be trained to ask caller specific information? For example, when is my bill due and how much is my bill?
Yeah, for sure. So that would likely require an integration of sorts with the back end of that database so that the customer can then be identified, and then the chatbot can then look into the account and say, your bill's due on the 4th or whatever it is. That's all possible. So it doesn't have to just be simple routine questions. They're typically I guess the easier wins to get out because an integration can take a little longer sometimes, but certainly it's possible. Absolutely.
Great. Good to answer some more of those questions. Take them off your customer team, off their plates. So if people wanted to go check out some of Clevertar's chatbots, specialist chatbots in action, where should they go? Kind of go to the SA Health website or?
Yeah, SA Health website is a good one. So Zoe is there in the bottom right-hand corner. We've also got...
tell her we said hi.
Tell her we said hi. We've also got... We've been working with a great telco out of Sydney called Mate, who, if any of you are sports and soccer fans, you would see a lot of their ads pop up during the soccer. They have Grace. She works with their support team, so she takes over after hours, actually. they have their support team in the day, and then she goes after hours between 8 and 9 a.m. and takes the night shifts. We also have a recent addition with Lifeblood. So the donateblood.com.au has Jamie, who helps with blood donations and COVID. So there's a few great ones. And also the census, as I mentioned.
Yes.
You'll all hopefully do the census, so you don't know where to find in the next little period. So chat to Claire, and she can help out.
Yeah. Ask her some tricky questions.
That's right.
I'm curious, how do you actually name the chatbots? Because I'm noticing, they're all female names too, the ones I've heard so far.
Yeah, there's been no reason for that necessarily, that they've been female. We work with our customers. They decide on the chat. We have male characters as well.
Yeah.
So we have a number of different characters that are able to be chosen from. And see, going back a step, this isn't directly answering your question, but one of the ways that we're able to get projects off the ground quickly is that we're not building from scratch. We've got a stable of characters and the platform is there, that we tweak it to suit. We tweak the look and feel of it to suit. So the colours, the branding, if they've got a t-shirt on that has the customer logo on it, all of that can happen in a relatively short time frame because we've got the base database and the base platform there to work with to start with. To your question about the names though, typically we recommend shorter names that are easy to say and can fit in a small context, but that's just whatever our customers want and feel comfortable with. Zoe, for example, has a Greek meaning for the word life, so that's why they chose that.
Oh, perfect. So you can choose the name of your chatbot.
Yeah, that's right.
Perfect. I see a Matt and an Amy one day.
Yeah, Matt's not a common name these days, so maybe we'll avoid that.
Let us know if you've got any other questions for Matt. He's happy to answer them. We're really keen to ensure that you walk away with some really handy tips. If you are considering deploying a chatbot, giving you some helpful insights about how you could really make the best of deploying a chatbot for your company. If someone did want to go away from this and deploy a chatbot, what would it look like from kind of the first conversation to having it on your website? Like, I know you did it with Zoe in 6 days, but what does it typically look like, and what would that experience be for someone?
Yeah, typically starts with an exploration. So James has commented there. James often does these. An exploration about the challenges that organisation might face, and then importantly whether a chatbot is the best fit for that. We want to be totally open and honest about that. It might not be the best fit in all situations. We think that it can help them a lot, but we explore that together, and then going through a stage of planning is what that might look like, and then like I spoke about, how we're going to actually get that content and information, how we're going to deliver it in a way that's packageable. But because the base technology is all there, it's the majority of the work comes from the content transformation, which the Clevertar team will do. So it's about making sure that there's a use case that fits well, that it can deliver on business outcomes that the organisation expects and wants, and then work with them to get it out in a short time frame.
Awesome. Paul's jumped into the chat. Welcome, Paul. He says, what industries or specific functions within a business have the greatest efficiencies been seen through adopting Clevertar?
So in terms of, industries, so really it's any industry where there's a relatively high inbound number of customer service inquiries.
Yeah.
So I'll go back to the routine inquiries again because that's pretty broad. Typically, where we've seen success with that, or where we've had a lot of interest from it, has been telecommunications, for example. Work with a lot of government providers because a lot of government providers have information they need to get out to the public, and they do get asked that same information again and again. So it's more about, probably less about specific industries, although we do have runs on the board in different spots, but more about how, is there a lot of customer inquiries that are coming through? If there's a lot of customer inquiries coming through and they're very similar, then there is a good fit for a chatbot.
Great. I'm interested also in, you've done this but in the mental health space as well. So it's not just kind of telecommunications, government agencies, you're doing some really important work as well.
Yeah, we've had a version of Claire, her name is another Claire. Claire's been live with the suicide callback service. So it's a really important work she's been doing, and that's been live now for a little over 2 years. So she's worked with a number of different clients in that time, or customers in that time, and she helps take the load off their support team at On the Line in Melbourne, due to helping people typically after hours, but happens all time of the day, with, I guess, making sure that they can provide mental health support to those who might not feel comfortable picking up the phone, want to look for the website for resources and information. Well, they can have a chat to Claire, who screens their mental health levels at the moment, and then provides them with the right course of action and right advice. And if it's necessary, passing them through to somebody who can help.
Yeah.
So
we can't afford for Claire to be a dumb chatbot.
No, not at all.
Smart.
No, not at all. But that's an example of, once again, an industry where it's completely different to a telco customer, but they do have a lot of inquiries, and they do get a lot of people who, unfortunately, hit the website for various reasons. And this is another way that we can have a channel of people interacting.
Love it. If you've got any other questions, let us know. We've got Matt for a few more minutes, so feel free to pick his brain, try and download as much of that knowledge and wisdom about the Chatbot, customer communications, customer experience space that he's got. And let us know if you've got industry-specific questions as well. Darren says, can I confirm that this is a cloud-based offering?
Yeah.
And if so, how do you secure the content of the conversation? Where does that information reside and for how long? Great question, Darren.
Yeah, Darren, so it is a cloud-based offering, and it's stored on Microsoft Azure. So comes with security that Microsoft offers. And we also offer single tenant access for servers as well. So a lot of our clients choose to take that up. We have their own secure server instance hosted on the cloud with Azure, which is obviously a very secure service. Held the data, and importantly, the data is held here in Australia, in Sydney and Melbourne. So.
Okay, great. Hopefully that's answered your question, Darren. Let us know. Just checking here, we haven't missed any questions. Another one in the Q&A. Darren says, thank you. Just checking the chat.
Thanks very much for all your questions that come through as well. It's always great when it is a two-way conversation, these types of things.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. I think we've covered all of those in the chat, and we've covered all the Q&As. Let us know if there's any other questions. We'd love to tackle them today. Sit back and relax.
Sit back and relax. sit in front of the fire.
I know. The wonderful James that sets this up, he organised a fire for us, which is lovely and toasty.
We need a red wine.
Yeah, I know, right? Any more questions, feel free to sing out. When I was telling my husband about your technology, he said, I wonder if they could do like an animal for a vet, for example. Do you think you'll ever go into that space?
I really hope so.
Yeah,
I think it'd be great. We've been asked that a number of times. I think, well, particularly where there's organisations where they have certain characters that have been representing their brand for a long time, like if you're a football team and you had the Pros as a mascot or whatever it might be,
right.
having a fun version of a chatbot would be a really relatable way to get through your audience. I think leveraging that is something that will certainly be good.
Yeah, perfect. And what's the kind of future of this space? So if the smart brands, the smart organisations have got a chatbot like Claire or Zoe sitting on their website answering all of those repetitive questions, what's the kind of outlook? I'm throwing you a question here that I didn't give you beforehand, but
That's okay.
throwing some challenging ones. What's the kind of outlook for the next 5 and 10 years? What's the future of this space?
Look, I think personalisation is the thing that I think will continue to be improved upon as time goes on. So I can't remember who asked it, but someone asked a great question about whether or not you can know things about my build and those types of questions. Well, that's all personalisation, and we don't want to make experiences where people feel like it's just the information and that's it, walk away. We want to make it's a conversation. We're using conversational AI for a reason, because it creates an environment where people feel comfortable. It's what people are used to doing, having conversations with people, and that's why we use avatars as well. So I think continuing that, the technology will continue to improve. More that we integrate with different services where we know that it's Amy and you build to at this time, and last time you came here you spoke about this. All of those sorts of things are where we'll continue to see improvement, and also omni-channel as well. We interact with brands now over so many different mediums, whether it be websites, social media, on the phone. Having consistent messaging where it all knows that you've been to all those different channels and spoken, and continuing the conversation in all those areas is something that I think will continue to grow over the next few years.
And before we wrap up, could you talk to us about, if someone's got an idea, they think, okay, no, I'm not ready for one now, but perhaps I want to start planning to deploy a chatbot. Is there any opportunities for them to kind of scope out the project with you and have some initial discussions?
Yeah, thanks, James. Good prompt. I think that, well, actually, there's we've recently put to work one of our own chatbots on our website. So Tara sits on our website.
That time you got your own one?
Yeah, no, she's been there for a while. We've now got her helping people scope projects and starting that initial stage of the process of thinking about a chatbot and how they might use one. So if you'd like to, you can chat to Tara and she can start exploring that with you. And then the next option would be someone from our team will get in touch and we'll then start talking through the initial scope of the project and how that might look. But Tara is certainly a great way to experience a chatbot and a Clevertar chatbot in the first instance, but also using her to work with you to answer any questions and also to explore the option.
And the team here, they're pretty approachable and friendly. So if you did want to have just an initial conversation, of course, no obligation, I think you probably get a lot of value out of just having a chat to these guys on the phone. I know I do every time I chat to them. Darren's got a question. He said, if we wanted to draw data from chats into our CRM platform, what capability does Clevertar provide to support that?
Yeah, we probably have to know a little bit more about the specific situation, I think, Darren. But certainly I think there'd be opportunity to export that data and then model it in a way that means that you're not having to, I guess, double up on anything too much in the initial planning process. So yeah, we'd have to look at how we use that. I'm sure from an API perspective, we'll be able to do something.
Assuming lots of your clients have CRMs already, so you've worked with some in the past to do just that?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. So typically how we've done that is we've looked at trends, looked at the trend data and said, well, okay, there's a lot of people that have inquired about this specific topic. Yeah. And then what is really important though is being able to use voice of customer. So knowing if we have different types of data insights about exactly the types of ways that people are asking questions, then we can better train a solution up front to make sure that the system up front to make sure that it's going to answer the question that way. So that's something that we do request often when we're putting in natural language understanding into a project is, can you provide us data so that we can see exactly how your customers are asking questions, and then we can train it in a way that they're likely to get an answer with.
Hopefully that's answered your question, but if not, jump back in the Q&A and let us know. If that's all the questions, we might kind of wrap it up there, unless there's anything else you'd like to add, Matt?
No, I think we've covered a lot of stuff. As I said, thank you very much to everyone that's asked questions through. it's made it a really interesting chat. It's been great.
Yeah, and after this ends, you will be sent over to a survey form, and we'd love you just to take a minute, 30 seconds, just to fill that out. Let us know if this was valuable. Let us know what questions you've got so we can make sure we're covering them for the next session. Let us know how we can help you. And of course, the team at Clevertar would love to have that initial chat with you if you're considering going down this path.
Or Tara.
Yeah, Tara. Yeah. Particularly if you can ask questions other people have already asked. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been great to spend a bit of time with you this morning, and we hope wherever you are in the world that you're doing as best as you can. Any final questions before we jump off? Looks good to me. Double check, 2 new messages. Thanks, guys. Really insightful session.
Thanks, Paul.
That's lovely, Paul. Thank you. Nice to hear from you. Lovely comment there from James. Anyone else? Usually the questions all flood in right at the end. I think that's all of them. Just double check before we bid you farewell. Awesome. All right. Thanks so much, everyone. Feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn. We'd love to chat further.
Thanks, Amy.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you all.